Hey everybody, this is Wendy Ponomarenko. I'm the art teacher and librarian at Temple Emanu-El. And tonight for the Sabbath, I have a special story for us. This is Day of Delight, a Jewish Sabbath in Ethiopia by Maxine Rose Schnur and illustrations by Brian Pinkney. Hope you enjoy. Okay, this is Day of Delight, a Jewish Sabbath in Ethiopia by Maxine Rose Schnur and illustrations by Brian Pinkney. Well before the woodcock calls, when morning still looks like night, my mother rises. Moving silently over the earthen floor, she lifts the bamboo pipe from the wall and kneels with it over the hearth. Again and again she blows through the pipe. Again and again, until at last her breath rekindles yesterday's embers, and we have a fire. As the fire grows, my mother mixes teff flour with water and pours it on the iron griddle. Now our injera, our bread pancakes, are sizzling. We throw off our sheepskin covers and dress in our long shamas. Father pours water from the gourd onto our outstretched hands. Around the masab, our table made of woven reeds, we eat our pancakes, washing them down with strong coffee. Suddenly we hear it, the clang of the iron gong, the boom of the big drums. My little brother Simcha runs to the door to watch. The elders are moving through the village, reminding us that Sabbath, the day of delight, begins at sundown. Father rises, pours sesame oil into the lantern, and gathers his blacksmithing tools. "Come, Menelek," he says to me, "we have much work, and because of the Sabbath, only a half day to do it." My mother hands me a bag of roasted chickpeas for our lunch. When I follow my father out of the hut, Simcha begs to come along. "Our work is not for little ones," Father tells him gently. Simcha cries, knowing he must stay home to study letters, gather kindling, and shoo stray chickens out the door. In front of his hut, not far from our own, Uncle Baruch is fanning the fire with the goatskin bellows. Today we will make sickles for cutting down the teff grass. Sickles to sell so we can buy meat, coffee, and salt. My father fits a piece of scrap iron into the tongs and plunges it into the fire. Just before it melts, when it's sun-colored, he pulls it out and rests it on the anvil. With one hand he holds the tongs, and with the other hand he taps his hammer on the hot iron, showing the exact spot where Uncle Baruch must let fall the heavy sledge. Clang! Tap, tap, clang! Our metal music rings through our mountain village and echoes across the dark valleys. The charcoal fire reaches higher. With the long metal poker, I push the coals together until they're piled up like a little hill. It's my job to keep the flames big, and though my eyes are filled with smoke, I'm happy, for my father promised me that later he will let me take the iron from the fire, all by myself. By the time the morning sun lights the mountaintops, the rest of the villagers are working. As I tend the fire, I see my mother in front of our hut, sitting with the other Potter women. Her hands fly like two brown swallows. First she pulls and pinches the red clay until it's soft and pliant. Then she rolls out the long, skinny snakes that she coils around and around to shape a tall jug. Later, she will decorate it with juniper leaves, pigeon feathers, and glass beads. Today she has much to do. Besides making jugs, she must sweep the hut with the horsehair broom, prepare wat, our peppery chicken stew, and bake dabo, our white Sabbath bread. Simcha kneels in the dirt beside her, scratching alphabet letters with a sycamore twig. Outside his hut, Uri sits in a hole weaving. His great high loom is attached to his big toes by strings. His toes are his treadle, and he moves them up and down. The strings lift the wooden slat that makes the threads weave together. A few feet away, Uri's wife cleans and spins the raw cotton. They do not speak to each other. Uri must concentrate. He cannot even shoo flies away. If his cloth starts to pucker, he will have to undo the threads and start again. Old Uri's toes move up and down, hour after hour after hour. In 2 weeks, he will have turned the wild mountain cotton into a milky white shama to sell at the market. As I tend the fire, I look toward the hills. I see our men work the soil. They are sharecroppers, farmers who plow the damp, dark land they do not own. I can see Reuben moving slowly, stumbling behind 2 hump-necked oxen. His long iron plow opens the earth, readying it to receive seeds of teff, the grain we use to make our bread. Our people depend on a good crop, and every year we wonder, will the teff grass grow tall and green, bringing enough money at the market to buy meat? Will there be enough rain to start new life within the seeds at all? I'm only 10, but I can remember the year when the sky gave no rain at all. I remember how the gray locusts came covering the fields like a great dirty shama, destroying the crops within hours. Birds too are trouble. They love to eat the newly planted seeds, but Reuben and the other farmers have planned well. They've built wooden platforms where their sons, armed with slingshots, defend the precious seeds from hungry birds. At the close edge of these fields, the branches of the sycamore tree dance up and down. At first I see no one, but then I spot my friends Isaac and Joseph at the top of the tree. Those 2 are the best climbers in the village, sure-footed as mountain goats. I've no time to watch them now, yet I know just what they're doing. They're removing the honey from the beehive baskets. The hanging baskets swarm with angry bees, but my friends have a clever trick. They hit the sides of the baskets softly with sticks, making a sound like slow Sabbath drums. The rhythmic beat calms the bees so that Isaac and Joseph can open the baskets and safely remove the honeycomb. From this, the grown-ups will make sweet beer, and as a treat, give us small golden pieces to crunch. Throughout the village, there's a sound like soldiers marching. The grinding women are banging the big wooden pestles into the stone mortars. Every day they crush barley, maize, and teff grass to make flour, and every day as she works, Widow Deborah complains, "Aye!" as she always cries, "My shoulders are sore, my neck is stiff, my hands hurt." On the Sabbath, she will drink bark tea and feel much better, but today she must bang the pestle. Girls of the village also work hard. Each day I see them run back and forth to the river for water, collect cow dung for fuel, and carry roasted chickpeas to the men in the fields. As I pump the bellows to fan the flame, a girl with a baby on her back drives the cows to the high sod grass. At first, the cows file past us like obedient children, but suddenly they stray toward our fire. I grab the iron poker to shoo them back, but the girl throws pebbles at the cows and shouts, "Hid! Hid!" When the cows have passed, and I've made the fire high again, my father turns to me and says, "Now it is your turn to take the iron from the fire." I say nothing, so he asks, "Menelik, are you afraid?" "No," I answer, though my heart is beating fast. Father hands me the tongs. "Wait for the right moment," he warns. The iron flames red as the sunset, then white as the moon. Now, no, yellow as the sun. Now, with all my strength, I swing the tongs from the fire and land the sizzling metal right on the anvil. "Perfect," says my father. I smile, for I can already picture a long, cool curve of iron, without holes, bends, or cracks. For many hours we work in silence. Our arms ache and our eyes water from the smoke. Our shamas darken with the soot that flies up from the burning coals. When the sun sits high in the sky and the air hangs still, we stop. Workday tools are put away. The coal fire is doused. The loom lies silent. The cattle are left to graze. Birds fly freely as slingshots are laid to rest. It's time to prepare for the Sabbath. Back at our hut, my mother greets us with clean shamas. "I have already bathed," she says. "Now it's your turn." We take the clean clothes down to the river. Simcha runs in front of us, scaring the chickens. In the reeds of the riverbank, we take off our soot-stained shamas. My skin is hot and dry, so I jump right in. Naked in the cool water, we pass around the green soap my mother made from the wild soapwort berries. "I'm a crocodile," I shout as I lunge at Simcha's legs. He shrieks with laughter and splashes me all over. While we play, a sunfish swims around our feet. "Look," Father says at last, "the sun is dipping. We must leave." Walking back to our hut, I can smell the spicy Barbary pepper and garlic of our chicken stew. Sanbat Salaam, Mother greets us. Peaceful Sabbath. Father takes her hand in his. Yesterday, she said, the grass roof needs repair. Yesterday, Father told her, we've no money for sandals this year. But the Sabbath is almost here, so they do not speak of workday things. In these last moments, Simcha and I sit in the breeze near the doorway of our hut as the dusk slowly absorbs the world's colors. No wheel is spun, no water is drawn, no fire is lit, no drum is beaten, no gong is sounded. We can hear our cattle moo in the twilight. We can hear a hyena cry in the hills. We can hear the dry thorn bush creak in the wind. Overhead, the darkening sky reveals the stars. Now all Africa seems to rest. The Sabbath is come. We share our meal in the dim moonlight that shines through the open doorway. We're very hungry, but we make ourselves eat slowly, tearing off chunks of spongy injera and topping them with delicious mouthfuls of hot chicken stew. Do crocodiles have Sabbath too? Simcha suddenly asks, his cheeks round with the food he's chewing. We all laugh. No, little one, Mother says. To a crocodile, each day in the river is like every other. But we have one day in the week for remembering God's goodness through play, rest, and prayer. And good food, Simcha adds. Yes, and good food, Mother smiles, wiping his mouth. Before going to bed, we sing a Sabbath tune. The familiar melody wraps around us like a soft old blanket. Inside our hut, we are happy, and outside, the night is still. It's at this time I feel my high mountain village must lie on the very route to heaven. The next morning, my whole village makes a procession uphill to the Mekura, our synagogue. We carry pitchers of sweet honey beer and coffee, jars of yogurt, and baskets of dabo bread. Today, our shamas have no clay stains. Today, our shamas have no soot marks. On Sabbath, our clothes are as white as we can make them and without holes. With one hand, I hold the parasol over my mother's head to protect her from the hot sun, and with the other, I hold Simcha's hand, so he won't pick up the dusty pebbles he loves to collect. Inside the Mekurab, it is dark and cool. Sesame oil lanterns glow like tiny suns, lighting up the cloths draped on each wall. Purple, green, red, and yellow, they ripple in the breeze from the open door and shimmer together like a rainbow. My family squeezes in among the worshippers, sitting on the ground. Fresh-cut grass, sweet basil, coriander leaves, and spicy fenugreek have been spread over the earthen floor. In the morning warmth, the perfume of the herbs wraps around us all. We've made our own Garden of Eden. In his tall white turban, the high priest reads prayers in the ancient language of Ge'ez. Reuben translates them for us into our own language, Amharic. Reuben does not follow an ox today, but is the guide of us all. Yetabarak Ekzibar Amlak Israel, we sing. Blessed be the owner of the world, the God King of Israel. We are blacksmiths, farmers, weavers, the high priest tells us. We are potters and grinders. But we are all something else too. We are God's chosen. Today on the Sabbath, we especially remember this. For today, we do not struggle for food. Today, we are at peace. Later, after the service, we will share our food with one another. Then, Simcha will run races with other children. I will play ragball with Joseph, Yoav, and Isaac. And tomorrow we'll rise again before the sun and work until it's too dark to continue. The Sabbath day will have ended, yet it will remain in our minds, warming us with its fire. For the Sabbath is the flame, forging us together with the memory and the promise of a day of delight. The end. This story is actually really important in that it illustrates a culture that kind of no longer exists. Most of the Ethiopian Jews today now live in Israel. So in the 1980s, there was a famine and a war going on in Ethiopia, and a lot of the Jewish population in that area escaped to Sudan. And we have the story Yuvi's Candy Tree that actually talks about a group that were saved from from a refugee camp in Sudan and flown to Israel. And of course we have the book Yosef's Dream, which talks about a group that were flown to Israel from Ethiopia as part of Operation Solomon. So this one actually is just talking about what it was like living in Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopian Jews, they were so isolated in Ethiopia that for thousands of years they literally thought that they were the only Jews in the world. And they were so isolated even from their neighbors in Ethiopia that other Ethiopians referred to them as Falashas, which is strangers. They referred to themselves as Beta Israel, those of the house of Israel. So yeah, they actually had this long-held culture that they really clung to and managed to preserve for thousands of years. And it's really rather wonderful. But this particular culture where you're seeing what a day in the life of people in an Ethiopian village was like, this is a culture that is vanishing. This is a culture that is not really around anymore because most of the Ethiopian Jews have since moved to Israel. So yeah, this one is an interesting book that shows us a snapshot of a culture that is pretty much vanishing. So it really documents a bit of reality that you're not going to get to see today. So this book is wonderfully important for that, and it shows us a group of people that we don't normally get to see, which is the Ethiopian Jewish population. So it's rather great. If you get a chance to check this one out, we keep it in the Sabbath section of the Juvenile stacks. Shabbat Shalom. Have a good one.